Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to thank you for joining us for the last session in our five-part educational series. Today's session is Operator Insights, Cleaning Solutions, and Promotion. We have two moderators today. First, we have CBA Secretary Jody Merritt, President of H&L Charters in Rancho Cucamonga, and Board Member Jasmine Saya, General Manager of Best Tours in Fresno. Ladies, I will hand it off to you.
Good morning, everybody, for participating in today's webinar. Today we have a esteemed guest that we will have on our panel today that will be discussing the information regarding the cleaning and promotion. So we first have today Kyle DeViva with DATCO. Second, we have Matt Dance with Champion Coach, and he will be discussing Assure Clean. Terry Fisher, and he will be with TCS and Polynesian Adventure. And last, we have Bob Green and Phil Strife, and they will be discussing, Bob Green is actually with Amaya Seating, and Phil Strife is with Vandalia Bus, and they'll be discussing fleet and facility solutions. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Kyle DeVivo, and then proceed from there. So thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine. So I think this has obviously been a topic that has been top of mind for all of us for a long time. I remember the initial conversations we were having, as early as March about what we were going to do and how we were going to respond as passengers started to reboard. And for some companies that's materialized, and for others, I think, we're still preparing here. But I think there's two important aspects that DATCO has considered, at least when it comes to not just our cleaning protocols, but we're also trying to think about how we're marketing that to our customers so that we can make them feel safe. I remember, back in April or May, you started to see the airlines start to do some marketing, and a lot of them were posting pictures of cleaners wearing full hazmat suits. And, to me, that just didn't, give off an air of this is a safe place for a person to be, especially for an industry like ours that's a lot of leisure travel and supposed to be, enjoyable. So I think we really did focus sincerely on how we were going to keep our passengers safe, but we also tried to focus on how we were going to communicate that in an effective way to them. So I think everyone can see my screen here now. Which is our DATCO Clean Care Certified brochure that we've been sending to customers who have asked, and many customers have asked, whether it's universities or corporate clients, about what are we doing to clean our vehicles, and then how can we communicate that effectively. Usually there's protocols at their university or company that they're required to comply with, so they need to be able to show and display that the vendors that they're working with are doing an effective job of this. So again, and I won't go through every bullet point or line item because I don't think this is terribly unique to us. And I do really want to credit IMG as well as Star Charter in New Jersey. We specifically worked with a lot of those companies to try and design some of these things. And again, really keeping it at a high level. With these bullet points of the things that they're concerned about, showing some pictures that, again, show that we're cleaning and we're doing an effective job of that masks are required when, people are on the bus, but I think still trying to promote as welcoming of an atmosphere as we possibly can. We couple this with, for customers that kind of follow up, we couple that with some driver protocols and things like that that talk about, boarding the bus and where the driver is going to stand. Typically it'd be at the bottom of the steps, but that's one of many things that has changed as a result of COVID. Different procedures we're following in our dispatch center to try and minimize contact between our employees, and really going to whatever level of comfort that the customer requires, which I think, depending on where you are, certainly in California, the restrictions are greater than in some other places. So I think, that's more imposed than companies being able to make individual decisions. But I think it all comes back to, at the end of the day, customers feeling safe in their experience, and that's what's ultimately going to help us to generate bookings again. And so, not to say that we let customers dictate all of our protocols, but we're also certainly willing to go above and beyond when a customer asks us to. If a customer has a piece of shuttle business or some type of consistent work where they want us to have drivers get rapid tested or things like that, I think we're trying as best as we can to adapt these protocols that we've put in place since the beginning of the pandemic. And I think all of us at this point expect this to be at least part of our near future. So happy to answer any questions on what we're doing at DATCO and some of the marketing materials that we've put out there, as well as some of the questions that our customers have been posing to us.
Well, thank you, Kyle. And I forgot to mention at the beginning that if anybody has any questions, please feel free to enter them into the chat, and then we'll go ahead and be moderating that and answering any questions as they come through. So if there's no questions, we're going to go ahead and hand it over to Matt Dance with Champion Coach. And again, he'll be discussing AssureClean.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Jasmine, and great section, Kyle. I'm kind of going to lead into a lot of what Kyle discussed as far as how you can market your company to your customers to let them know that you have a safe product and assure them. So let me get my screen here shared a little bit. So at the beginning of the pandemic, back in late March, early April, it seemed a overarching theme in our industry, and really for a lot of industries, was there was very limited guidance about how we should be cleaning, what we should be cleaning with, procedures to keep people safe. We wear a mask, we don't wear a mask. There was a lot of that. So out of these questions and not having any sort of guidance, UMA, the Risk Management Committee, sent a letter to the CDC, and we did get something back as far as guidance. They later, after that letter, they ended up publishing guidance for transit and motor coaches. So if you go to the CDC's website, they do have specific cleaning guidance, but a lot of it is long and it's hard to understand. So out of that was born UMA's AssureClean program. And what the AssureClean program is, it's a 7-point acknowledgement that you can sign on for free, and you can get this for free. And you will be able to market yourself through these 7 points, which I'll discuss in just a second, almost like a third-party certification. So if you've noticed a lot of companies, commercial, specifically the airlines, something that's really trending upward is that people want some sort of third-party certification or some sort of certification out there that you acknowledge CDC guidelines or that you are following CDC guidelines. So this is really where the AssureClean was born from, a simple way to show that you acknowledge the CDC's guidelines, you are committed to operating safe, and once you sign up for this, you'll get a certificate and some decals and a media toolkit and some other things. But I'll just run through these 7 points really quick about what you have to acknowledge. So designate someone responsible for responding to COVID-19 concerns, and all employees know who that person is and how to contact them. Provide all employees with information about COVID-19, how it spreads, the risk of exposure, training on proper hand washing practices and other routine infection control precautions, access to soap, clean running water, drying materials, or alcohol-based hand sanitizers containing at least 60% alcohol at their work site. So conduct worksite assessments to identify COVID-19 prevention strategies. So this goes back to what Kyle was saying. Do they require wearing a mask? How does the mask fit in? What are the procedures? When practical, provide as recommended by the CDC and EPA and other applicable government agencies so that surfaces commonly touched by passengers can be cleaned periodically. Use and continue to use disinfectant products that meet the EPA's N list, disinfectants for use against SARS-CoV-2, which is COVID-19, and provide employees on training on manufacturers' directions. And this one's really important too. At the beginning of the pandemic, the EPA list, of course, was not as long as it is now, but a lot of products that were EPA registered tended to be more on the expensive side. Now that we're 7 to 8 months into this, there's been a lot of household products that are now on that list too. So I know Pine Sol was recently added within the past couple of weeks, but make sure you're going through your inventory and see what you have that may already be EPA registered so that you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of new chemicals just because they're EPA registered. So you may already have a lot of this stuff. given that a lot of chemicals have now been added to this. So coordinate with and continue to coordinate with local, state, and public health officials and establish ongoing communications to facilitate access to relevant information. So are you aware of travel restrictions, mask mandates, quarantine areas, and then monitor and continue to monitor federal regulations and public health agencies guidelines as appropriate. So you just want to let your customer know that you have a information stream to when regulations do change, if your group is not aware of it, that you are aware of it and on top of it. So once you sign up for this program, which is completely free, we will send you a certificate, and you also get some decals, which this actually was an older set of decals that was revised. But the certificate looks just like this. So this is the certificate for our company. It comes in PDF. You can print it, so you can post it to your website. You can email it to your customers. You can put it on the bottom of your emails. And then also you can add it to your website. So we have a commitment to clean page here that identifies all of our procedures and chemicals that we use, but we also put the AssureClean right up here at the top with the AssureClean logo as well, because we've got a lot of customers. They're looking for some sort of third-party acknowledgement or certification. And, we don't necessarily have to be like the airlines partnering with Cleveland Clinic or Johns Hopkins to figure out that Lysol kills this thing and spend a bunch of money to do so. But you can sign up for this for free until the end of the year. And I've got some examples too. Of some operators that have also added this to their website. So we've got Coach Light Tours out of Hardyville, South Carolina. They actually made a marketing brochure and added the AssureClean to that. R&W Motor Coach, they incorporated that. And then the CDC now has a resuming business toolkit available at cdc.gov too. So, but again, with the AssureClean, you get free decals for the doors of your vehicles or wherever you want to put them. So we have some right here. You'll get your certificate and then a social media toolkit with graphics to post on your website and so on and so forth. So if anybody has any questions about the AssureClean program, please feel free to reach out. But we have 150 participants registered, so we hope to grow that number. But again, we've gotten a lot of information that customers are choosing the company that has some sort of third-party certification or acknowledgement. So this is completely free. Will make your customers feel safe and comfortable. So I highly recommend getting signed up for it. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Jasmine. Thank you.
Michael, do we have any questions?
No questions right now. Remember, if you want to go ahead and submit a question, just type it into the Q&A. We'll also have an opportunity at the end of everybody's presentation. So go ahead and type in those questions or go ahead and hit the raise hand button.
Okay, in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and introduce Terry Fisher with TCS, and he's going to give us some insight on all the things that are California specific for cleaning and disinfection. Thank you, Terry.
Great. Well, thanks, Jody. Hello, everyone. Just to give a little bit of background and, to echo a lot of what Kyle and Matt has said, how I got involved with this initially was very early on in the whole pandemic situation. Is that, one of the first things that we had to deal with was with our company over in Hawaii, Polynesian Adventure Tours. It was probably a week or so into the pandemic, and we were having to deal with a cruise ship that was sort of left at sea and was getting rejected and turned away from a number of different ports to get these people home. And so finally, the cruise line was able to negotiate with the state of Hawaii, and the state of Hawaii, under certain guidelines, was going to allow this ship to do a disembark. And so we got engaged by the cruise line very early on, and it was at that time, can you recall, this thing all kind of started with a cruise ship over in Japan with and it just seemed to have put this sense about that cruise ships are these floating COVID cesspools. And so with that situation, the cruise line was connected directly with the CDC, and we got sort of overrun with information with the CDC on what we needed to do to perform this move. And so it was right at that point in time, we really started to kind of get fulfilled with information, early on. And, at that time, we were all still trying to just figure it all out, not really knowing what the situation at hand was. I know we were all terribly afraid of this virus, not really knowing exactly what it entailed. I know at that time we were all walking around with rubber gloves up to our elbows and, wiping down our groceries and things like that. So it was, things have evolved somewhat since then, as Matt alluded to. But another section on this is that we also, with our company, with TCS in California, we're also got called on to assist with a major capital construction project that they wanted to keep rolling. And with this as well, because it was high profile, we also were getting sort of directly fed from the CDC early on. So it was with this information we started to develop some of our protocols and best practices. And it was interesting because for us, it started off as a one-pager, and then as information became available, it gradually grew. And this document has become much more comprehensive as time has gone on. And it's even from there, we have to add California on top of it. And once our governor decided that he was going to also become the COVID expert at that time, that all kinds of other guidelines were coming through for us. So, now it's, workers' comp has been worked into it, and, all kinds of other things when it comes to employment law. So it's not just about, cleaning and disinfecting our vehicles and keeping our passengers safe. It's also about, working with our staff and making sure that we're following correct protocols when it comes to our employment practices. So I'm going to just start off here and just share a little bit about, some of the information that we put together with TCS and share that with the group. So I will share my screen. All right, so we actually at that time, also early on, and I want to just mention a little bit, is that it was also very early. I got a call from one of our major tour and travel clients, and it was probably about 2 weeks into the pandemic, and they had decided as a company that they wanted to start talking about messaging to their guests. And they had gone to their marketing department within their organization saying that, we're going to have to come up with some collateral material and some marketing on what we need to do to make passengers and guests comfortable with traveling on a motor coach. So they sent it to them, and these were marketing people that really didn't know much about cleaning motor coaches, and what came back, they weren't really saying, this isn't really going to help us. So from that, they organized a phone call, and there was a few of their operators from across the country, we being one of them, got on this call. And it was right after I got off that call, I got on the phone to Peter Pantuso at ABA, and I said, Peter, this is something I think we really, ABA needs to start thinking about. And he says, yeah, no, great advice. And like I said, this was like still at the end of March. So it was from that, by signaling to Peter on this, that I got involved in the ABA task force, same as what Matt and their committee with UMA. So we were doing similar things with ABA over on the other side. But getting involved with that, we pulled a bunch of people in, operators from all around the country, and developed not necessarily a certification program, but a document that is very robust with sample policies, best practices, protocols, and things along that nature. And it was a document that was designed that you can use as a resource to dig in to establish your own programs in-house. So essentially, that's what we've done here. So with TCS, we developed what we refer to as our Clean Ride program. And our guys within our organization, led by my brother, Kevin Fisher, he's done a fantastic job with our group, both with TCS and Polyad, and have dug into this deep and established this program, as you'll see. So our program consists of, first off, we have a document, which is our master document, which is our best practices. And this one, like I said, it started off as a one-pager, and it grew to approximately, I believe it's up to around 22 pages or something along that nature. From there, we also came in with our infectious disease risk management plan. Then we had training programs for our Clean Ride, which we have one for management and admin, also for drivers, mechanics, and wash crew. And then from there, we developed a very comprehensive PowerPoint for our training program that's also comes with all of the acknowledgements for our staff. And then beyond that, we came up with our collateral information, same as very similar to what Matt had presented for UMA, things that we can send to our customers, showing not only on our motor coaches, but also for our staff and for our guests that come to our facility. Then we also have our info ride sheet for what we do on our motor coaches. And then we developed our own placards, which I will demonstrate to you. And then beyond that, we also amended our safety briefing. You know, we were all doing our safety briefings on our motor coaches, but we've now amended that and revised that to also include some of the COVID protocols for our passengers. And then getting into the employee stuff for the state of California, we also, with the guidance of our labor attorney and someone who's a regular presenter at California Bus Association, Brian Mills, had advised us and come up with all kinds of information that we can then use to revise our handbook and make sure we're complying with all of the OSHA and you know, anything to do with workers' comp in the state of California. And then from there, I also wanted to just point out our wellness questionnaire that goes along with that. So first and foremost, this was the our best practices document, the one I told you about. You can see here, just through the table of contents, all of the different aspects that we've dug into. And then beyond that, the next one is, this was where we came up with our management plan. And this is not only the vehicles, but also facilities and how we work with our staff and guests that come to our property. And then from that, there's training manuals for both, for administration, management, and then also for drivers, mechanics, wash crews. And once everybody goes through this training, we have, like I said, a very comprehensive PowerPoint presentation. We run everybody through this training program that also comes with acknowledgements. And then this was the Clean Ride facility poster that we had come up with, just to show what we're doing within our facility as a collateral piece. And this is the one for our motor coaches. One of the things that I wanted to mention, and I know we talked a lot about cleaning, disinfecting, but something that's come up more recently is talking about airflow, and airflow from the perspective of flow, exchange, and filtration. And this is something that, you know, beyond the cleaning, we're getting some customers that are asking about that. And I know we've then kind of engaged with the manufacturers to come up with a little bit more in-depth information on that, talking about, you know, the MERV filters, also air exchange flow rates, exchange rates of a vehicle with their RAM air systems, on the fact that it also, you know, increases the air exchange within the vehicle. So providing some material to our customers on airflow for filtration and exchange. So that's one of how we've expanded our Clean Ride program, just to mention those as well. And then this is just to show the placards that we developed. I know as far as the UMA has come up with the certification program, which is great. I know when I was talking to ABA about this early on, it was one of those things where the ABA attorneys were very reluctant to come up with anything that was going to be a certification program that the organization couldn't police and potentially leave themselves exposed. So at that point in time, we just said, well, for us, we're going to just self-certify, very similar to what Matt had referenced with UMA. So we came up with our own little placards that we put on our motor coaches, and also placards that we mount on the inside of the motor coaches as well. And then beyond that, we also, here's a little bit of a reference to our revised safety briefing, to just also include the COVID information, which we've also, like I said, have amended that. And then getting into updates with our employee handbook. I know that there was guidance that was sent out by the state of California on employment law when it comes to situations with medical leave, and they've also made it where, you know, one of your employees contracts the virus, it can become a workers' compensation claim. So our insurance companies have gotten involved. It's a lot more in depth than what it was previously. So there was certain protocols and things that our labor attorney wanted to make sure that we were following, specifically with updates to our handbook, and, you know, certain practices that we have to make sure that we do to protect ourselves. I know God knows that we have enough other things hanging over our head in the state of California, and certainly, you know, Chris Riddington, if he was on the call here, we can talk about this when we have to deal with our California meal and rest break law and everything else that causes us heartburn, and now we have this to deal with through the state of California. So this is something, with the guidance that has come out, we just made sure that we updated our employee handbook, and also all of the paperwork and acknowledgements, and even our process that we should have to follow very diligently, have, you know, in the event that we have an employee that contracts the virus. And then last but not least, we also as part of this, and something that we did is that we have a daily wellness questionnaire that our employees actually can complete online from their smartphones. And this is very much part of the California requirements. So, before anybody starts their shift of each day, they can go on their smartphones, they can submit this wellness questionnaire, and our safety department's able to monitor it in real time as to what's going on. But anyways, that's as far as TCS is concerned. And we've also mirrored this exact same program, everything you see, just with different logos for Polynesian Adventure Tours over in Hawaii. But anyhow, I'll hand it back. If there's any questions, be happy to answer. But thanks very much.
Thank you, Terry. That was a wealth of information. I do appreciate you sharing. Michael, have we gotten any questions yet?
Nothing at this time.
No? Okay. Well, then we're going to go ahead and continue on with Bob Green with Amaya Seating and Phil Strife from Vandalia Bus Lines. And they're going to talk about their fleet and facility solutions for sanitization.
Thank you, Jody. And thank you all for inviting me to be here. So as my role with Amaya Astron Seating and for the last 6.5 years, when I attended the Midwest Bus and Motor Coach Association meeting this past summer, Phil had done a presentation on the fleet and facility solutions, which really caught my attention because I thought, first of all, what a great way to protect our seats. And then secondly, what a great way to protect the entire inside of your vehicle. And not only that, but your facilities, your offices. And so it had a broad spectrum. The other thing that I liked about it was that it was not a chemical-based solution. So it's a water-soluble antimicrobial. A lot of people, you've heard people talk about being EPA registered and FDA approved and things like that. And so as Phil went through the presentation, I got more and more interested, and I thought, that might be something that would be a great message to get out to people. And so I agreed to sign on with him to help him to get this out there, get the message out there, and to present this as an option or solution to not only cleaning and well above disinfecting, but actually killing and preventing the COVID-19. So I'm going to share my screen here. I've got a couple of little PowerPoint presentation that I'll run through and share some key points off. And then I've got a flyer. Now, it's my understanding that all these materials are going to be available to everyone here on the call today. And again, as Terry and Kyle and Matt have talked about, if you have questions, feel free to ask us. I'm going to also include Phil in this presentation because he's doing, he has the operator perspective and has actually been putting this on the coach and has actually sold this to many operators throughout the country. Let me share my screen and I'll kind of go through some of this, but these materials will be available. And obviously you can contact all of us, Matt, Terry, Kyle, Phil, or myself, if you have other questions or you need additional information. So Phil started this company, and I'll let him kind of speak to this, but he started this company with a product called BioProtect, and the name of the company obviously is Fleet and Facility Solutions. The name of the product is actually BioProtect, and it's a water soluble antimicrobial. So there's no chemicals that are in this, all of these materials again are going to be available. So kind of the basics of what BioProtect is, what BioProtect does. Simple basics, and I've heard some of the other presenters talk about all these things which meet the CDC guidelines, but basically BioProtect is again, it's an antimicrobial, does not have any chemical base in it. the importance for people to understand about that is you're not putting chemicals and or heavy metals onto your surfaces. And the other thing that I like about this, especially if you look at the construction and design of our seats or the interiors of coaches, is they have porous and non-porous surfaces. There's been a lot of research, especially for non-porous surfaces, which would be, in my case with the Maya, would be your vinyls, your leathers, your pleathers, your wool blend upholstery, and then you look at armrests and things like that, which are non-porous surfaces. So, with the porous surfaces being in your seat and the non-porous surfaces being, everything else from your windows to your parcel racks to, again, armrests, footrests, floors, ceilings, the entire front cabin, all of that. It covers all of those things without putting harsh chemicals on there, which can reduce the life of those materials, especially on our seats. When you put chemicals onto the seats, you can get fading in the upholstery. And vinyl, we found that you can get peeling on the vinyl and or leather products over time. And that was another thing that really, was appealing to me, because again, now I'm protecting something that I represent and is near and dear to me with the Maya Astron seating. Second thing is it's water-based. So it's non-toxic to humans. It's non-toxic to animals. It doesn't contain any chemicals or heavy metals, and it cannot leach. And I think that's another big point of this, is that it doesn't leach in your system. I really, like Matt said, that, constantly things are being added through the CDC and things like that. What I would not encourage you to do is basically take Pine Sol and put it on your seats. I mean, yes, it has been approved by CDC to kill that. But if I was a passenger on the coach, I definitely wouldn't want to be sitting in something that had just been treated with Pine Sol. Again, personal opinion, but also presenting this as an alternative method. I want to have Phil address one thing, because BioProtect does carry an FDA approval, and it's been EPA registered. As everything else that has evolved with that, it now has a different classification. I'm going to let Phil talk about that real quickly.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So as he said, it's FDA approved, so you can spray this on food contact surfaces. It's so safe that people are actually spraying it in water filters. And then the EPA registration, that's an important factor here. So a lot of these antimicrobials are using what they call an EPA exemption. So basically they can't make health claims. It's a pesticide or a fungicide. So they can't say, oh, it can kill viruses. It has no health claims at all, because it's not registered. So they're using an exemption to be able to sell their product, and they put it in paints, and you can spray it on the side of your house, and it'll reduce the mold that grows on your house. But as far as the FDA registration or EPA registration is what you need to make sure. Our product is not the only one out there. You can do your own research. I probably looked into 10 of them as I was, just as all of you guys were back in March. We wanted to find something that was going to be the best for us. And I found this, which is a surface protect, and Bob will probably go into a little more, but this is a 90-day, it will last 90 days on the surface. So if you spray your buses down, you don't have to touch them for another 3 months. What we're doing is we're treating our buses and going back to our normal routine cleaning. We're not bombing the buses with disinfectant. And I don't know if any of you guys realize or know, but not one disinfectant has been approved to be used on soft porous surfaces. If you read the back of a Lysol can, it will not say anything about fabric, upholstery, or any kind of soft surfaces. It's not legal. So now we're running into issues with liability and legal liabilities, where some companies are saying, yeah, we're disinfecting our carpets and all that, but they're getting in trouble because of that. Now you have lawsuits coming out because of their making these false claims. So the fact that ours can be sprayed and protect seats is a huge factor, because that's probably 80% of the real estate in the bus is going to be fabric. So as you guys go and spray these buses down with a chemical, not only they're going to deteriorate the seats, it's voiding the approved usage. And
Yeah,
same-
and I think that's a good point. So let me continue on here. So kind of how it works is, and again, I'm going to let Phil talk a little bit about this as well. But the simple, I try to keep everything simple when I talk about things. But when you apply this to any of your surfaces, porous or non-porous surfaces, it basically, once it bonds with that surface, it kind of creates a series of spikes that, as a microorganism, a bacteria, a virus, or anything comes into contact with it, it actually pierces that cell and destroys the cell, thus killing the cell. So, but again, I'm going to let Phil talk just a little bit about it, and how that bond and then those spikes interact with bacteria, viruses, microorganisms.
Yeah, so it's a three-part system. It's got a saline base, which is what bonds to the surface. And it's got a carbon chain, which is what pierces the molecule or the cell membrane of whatever comes in contact with it. And it's got a positively charged nitrogen atom. So as that microorganism is pierced by the carbon chain, the positively charged nitrogen atom shocks it and kills it. So this is what they call a mechanical kill, as opposed to a chemical kill.
Okay. So this is the gentleman who started it all, and he's been around a long time. Actually, has been working with antimicrobials since the 60s, and is one of, if not the leading expert on antimicrobial technology. Thus, the recognition of the companies that he's worked for and the boards that he sits on. So that's kind of how it all started. So if you go down through just real quickly, and again, we've talked about some of these things, but the benefits of antimicrobial, and these would be the benefits not only of antimicrobial, but the benefits of antimicrobial versus chemicals. So again, it's an invisible barrier. It can be applied to both porous and non-porous surfaces. It has a 90-day life, and there's another slide that I'm going to come down that will show not only when it's used on porous surfaces, as cloth, clothing, things that end up getting washed, and then also a hospital study. It shows the effectiveness of, as Phil was saying. So when you go through and you do your 3-step process, you go through and you clean, you go through, you disinfect, and then the last part is to apply the BioProtect. After that, you're back into a normal routine. So you don't have to worry about going in and applying another disinfectant after your trip comes back in. For 90 days. And that's a huge thing because it's also a cost savings for you, and it gets your cleaning staff back into somewhat of a normal routine after this has been applied. Again, coming down, I think another one that I really want to point out, non-leaching. It stays on the surface that it's applied to, and it's not going to get into the customer or passenger's clothing. It's not going to get onto their skin. It's bound to that surface and does not leach into anything. And that's an important thing that we have to take into consideration when our customers are sitting in our seats and traveling. The next one is that it doesn't use any triclosan, heavy metals, arsenic, titanium, phenols, or poisons. What you'll see out there, there's other alternatives that are out there, and they use heavy metals such as silver nitrate and or copper. Actually, if you look at graphs and studies, triclosan has actually been banned by the FDA, and I think it was banned by the FDA back in 2016. So obviously that's not something that we want to have put on there. Again, another point down here, it's colorless, it's odorless. And then we're going to talk about application, but durable in the fact that it's not going to wash off when you get back into that normal routine after you put this on, and you get that 90-day period. Within that 90-day period, you're into a normal routine of a trip comes back and they're doing basic cleaning. You don't have to go back and reapply it. You don't have to go back and disinfect. You just go ahead, you get into your basic cleaning routine. So obviously super safe. And we're going to talk about that just real briefly coming up. So safe that you can put this on food contact surfaces. Now let's just think about your home. So you can actually put this onto your cutting boards. You can actually put it onto your countertops. You can put it into your bathrooms. But, and again, we'll talk real briefly about that, about food surfaces, is once this is cured for restaurants, look at the use for restaurants to be able to clean, disinfect, and protect their kitchens, their dining facilities, their bars, their seats, everything. So here's just a slide that shows all the different application areas that you can use this in. And these are the areas that we're, first of all, trying to open up to get back into: sports facilities and arenas, hotels and motels. I've stayed in a few here recently, and I'm wondered if they even cleaned while they were closed down for their 90-day period, March to June. But offices, you're not only can protect your passengers and your customers, but you can protect your employees. Household cleaning, and then obviously buses, plane, everything else. Again, hospitals, and really protecting our seniors and in the nursing homes. So what can you spray it on? Absolutely everything, including, as Terry was saying, in your air filtration systems. That is another, you can spray all of this on, and these are all the applications. Again, any porous or non-porous surface.
And electronics, Bob. You can spray.
Oh, and electronics. I guess I have to go back to my REI days. So, one of the things, there's some great articles out there and some research that have done is when people are disinfecting, especially like something like a coach in that front cabin, that's all your electronics. And they're using chemicals. What happens is the chemicals can break down that mechanism from the electronic, your electronic mechanism. This actually can be sprayed on any surface, whether it's your radio, your DVD, your hard drive, your disc players, your passenger safety announcement players, your all the controls that you have for your motor coaches, the front dash, everything else. Because again, as part of taking care of everybody, another person that's very important that we have to take care of is the driver. So these are just some of the things that you can spray it on, which is absolutely everything. Again, other uses, and right at the top, and I'll go back and give kudos to Terry, and that's something that people don't think about, is we're spraying our surfaces, but then we are having air recycled through the coach. And where's that air coming from? So that's another area that you can use this. And if you look down here, I mean, it just basically absolutely positively everything that you can think of or imagine to use this on. So then this is really important slide that I think people need to, and these again, some of the things that I thought about. How can we get our industry up and running safely, affordably, and have long-term lasting effects? So again, if you look at the Global Virus Network, who has done all of these tests, just like when we get our tests approved through registered facilities here in the United States for the 20G stress test, this is the Global Virus Network is the one that does, that has the most credibility when it comes to testing. And if you read through this, I mean, pretty much anything that's out there from H1N1 through the SARS, the COVID-2, which causes COVID-19. And if you look at all of those things, it's going to kill the coronavirus. This is a great one that I thought of personally, that Phil had presented when I originally looked at it. I wanted to point this out. This is also something that helps, reduce mold and mildew and odor, and it can kill the mold and mildew. I think, Phil, you were sharing with me that, if you look at outdoor spaces, fences, things like that, sometimes the siding on your house, so those kind of places, you get mold and you get mildew, which causes odor in your coach, causes odor in your home. It's just, one of those things that you can use this in a lot of different applications. And when you do it, you have long-term lasting effects. And I think you were talking about a fence or something, Phil.
Yeah, people spray it on their siding, on their fences. They spray it on their lawn furniture, around their pools. Whatever you want to spray it on, it's going to protect that surface.
So this is the study that I was referring to, and there's actually two studies, but this is the durability study on fabric. So in simplest terms is if you look at something that has what quote unquote the wash test, and they used 100 washes. So even if you look down at the bottom of the list, at 100 washes, this is still found to be 95.71% effective. Now, I mean, obviously, when I consider washes, I'm not thinking about washing my clothes or my sheets or towels or anything like that. What I'm considering in our industry is once you apply this, it's bringing it back and it's washing down or cleaning those surfaces in a normal way, in a normal routine of what you would do, post-trip when people are coming back. Now, this is the big one. This is the hospital test. And we all know how, first of all, either hospitals are clean or they're not clean. They say that if you go to the hospital, you're probably going to end up getting sick. Which is kind of an oxymoron in my opinion. But, these are some tests that they've done as well, where they've gone through and they've done swab tests, and you have your baseline reading, you have your follow-up reading, and you show the durability of how well this lasts. So how to apply BioProtect. So obviously there's an SDS that would come with all of these as you order it. Everything pretty much today in today's world has to have a safety data sheet with it, even though it's water soluble and things like that. But there's basically two takeaways. So after I met with Phil in Midwest Motor Coach in Bettendorf, Iowa, we actually scheduled time, and my wife and I, Erica, who a lot of you guys know and have met, we went down to St. Louis to meet with Phil at their location at Vandalia and actually not only get the hands-on, but also see how they do this. So what we found was, so when they're applying BioProtect and again, I think it was Kevin, not giving off that image. I think the most important thing is you have to protect the person that's doing the application. So there's a 3-step process. Number 1, you go in and do your normal clean routine. Number 2, you disinfect. And I think, Phil, you guys are using like odor band for your disinfectant, the second step.
Yeah, we had been using odor band. We're going to go over to Smart Touch.
Okay. So you clean everything, you apply your disinfectant, you wipe everything down again after the disinfectant, and then you put this on. And basically there's some steps that you have to follow. Number 1, I think your guy had a paint suit on, he had some rubber boots, he had latex gloves, and the most important thing was he had eye protection and a ventilator. So really what it came down to was if you got it on your skin when you're doing the application, or if you're filling up one of your bottles, you basically went over to the sink and washed your hands. If you get it in your eyes, you rinse and wash your eyes. The most important thing is that you don't want to breathe it in when you're doing the application. So that would probably end up being a trip to the hospital. But again, prudence lends itself towards safety, and these are the application instructions. And again, it's clean, disinfect, and then put this on. If you see down here in the corner, I'm going to give a little shameless plug to my my really close super friend and counterpart. Is you see a little electrostatic sprayer down there, and I think we all know that Jeff's got some electrostatic sprayers that are out on the market. The other thing is, how to apply it and what are the tools? Now, you can use a regular spray bottle. You can use, Phil, I think you guys use like a paint sprayer. I think really probably one of the most ideal ones, since it's out there and available, and since again my counterpart's actually selling it with the Victory Solution electrostatic sprayer, is the electrostatic sprayer is actually going to wrap it around the entire surface, and that's the sides and the back as well as the front. And I think that's important. Now, do you have to have an electrostatic sprayer? No, but if you have access to an electrostatic sprayer, that's a great way to do it, because if you look at it, like if I'm putting this on with just a spray bottle, I'm basically getting the front of the surface. I may get a little bit of the top and I may get a little bit of the side. And what an electrostatic sprayer will do is it'll actually wrap it around and get all of the surface, front, side, top, bottom, and back. And then that kind of ends this one. Obviously, if you have questions, you can get a hold of Phil or myself. The other thing that I would encourage you to do is take a look at, since you guys are following so many safety product protocols, and we're all kind of looking, how do we diversify? How do we bring income in? Which is why, that I agreed to help Phil with this, is this is something that you can introduce into your home market as well. I mean, you saw all the different applications, and I'm talking from an application. That's a great way to bring that in and bring some additional income in, is going to the groups that you're currently serving and then asking them, what are they doing on site? And there's, as you saw, a million different applications that are out there. And so that's another thing that I think is a great opportunity for you guys. And then the last one that I want to share is just my flyer. And these are, again, available. I can email them to you. I know they're going to, Michael and Jasmine and Jody and Vicky, I emailed all these to them. So they're going to be in your data bank that you have as far as materials, not only available for you for all the resources that you guys take advantage of in California, but because of the presentation. And again, it's just basically everything that I said. So if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. And again, like I said, there's a lot of people that are in the industry that are using it. Vandalia is an IMG member as well as UMA. And this is just an opportunity or a solution that you guys can choose. As Phil said, when he was researching these, there's a ton of them out there. So do your research and see if this might be a fit, and we'd love to be able to work with you guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob and Phil. We do appreciate you sharing all of that information with us. Michael, have we received any questions?
Still no questions. So don't be shy. If you have a question, type it in or raise your hand.
Jasmine have a couple of follow-ups. One, I wanted to ask any of the panelists if they, through each other's presentations, had anything they wanted to add or close out with from our panelists.
I just had a quick question pop up. I assume this is for Bob and Phil about costs of your product we're talking about. Bob, you're muted.
I'm muted, but the costs are actually listed on the website. And one of the things that I'll point out when you go to the website, there's a lot of different things that are on there. you actually have the concentrate, which then you would follow the guidelines of how to, mix that concentrate. It's a 9-to-1 ratio with like distilled water. There's a ready to use, which actually is already pre-mixed for you. And again, like if you look at offices, that would be a great thing because you don't have to have an electrostatic sprayer. You don't have to have a paint sprayer. You can actually use a spray bottle. There are several other products that are on there. They actually have a disinfectant, which is listed on there as well. Kind of going back to what Terry said, and I keep going back to his presentation, but it kind of covers everybody, is they actually make a sub-micron filter that you can they will either customize and put into a frame for you, or you can buy a roll and then put that as your filter covering. And then lastly, I just found out this week that we now have a hand sanitizer, and it's a hand sanitizer that's has a 90-day when you put it on with the BioProtect in your vehicles or your facilities or things like that. It lasts for 6 hours, even with hand washing. Go figure. Hey, I'm tired of washing my hands and then putting hand sanitizer on. If I can get something like that, and I don't have to put hand sanitizer after I wash my hands, and it's going to last for 6 hours, that's a win-win for me. And I just found that out. Phil might want to talk a little, just briefly about that. So
Yeah, I can give you guys some information on that. But as far as cost, the way to do it is to get the concentrate. Unless you're a small operator, you only have a bus or two. The way to do it is buy the concentrate and mix it at your location. And we did so it's a 9-to-1 ratio, like you said. So you're going to get 10 gallons out of 1 gallon of concentrate. That 10 gallons will do 10 buses. So you're going to pay about $40 a bus is what it comes out to be every 3 months.
okay, hopefully, because again, we're available. You've got our email. I think everybody here has my phone number. I mean, I think I have all your phone numbers. So, if you have any questions, give us a call. We'd be able to talk to you, provide you any additional information. And it's really good to see everybody from California. I missed you guys. I mean, Erica was telling me that she was so excited because we were out in San Diego last year, and I'm like, yeah, and here we are virtually. So I'm doing this and she's cleaning. So go figure.
Hey Bob, also, so you want to tell us who sells the sprayer you were talking about exactly?
There's this guy that you guys may know. He's probably going to be on tonight, I think, in the CBA Buses and Beer. Actually, my counterpart, my friend, and that would be Mr. Jeff Goldwasser, sells the electrostatic sprayers. So he sells the equipment to use with the solution. So there you go. It's a win-win situation. We keep it all in the family.
Thanks.
I smell a discounted bundle deal, Bob.
Hey, the one thing I was going to point out with you, Matt, was during this whole presentation, as Terry was talking about, I loved that. And as Kyle were talking about, getting back to basics, I'm going to give you a little shameless plug too, because UMA has its upcoming safety management seminar the first week in December. And what's the theme again, Matt?
It's back to basics. So
back to basics.
If you haven't put a DQ file together in 2 or 3 years and you're doing it now, or there's even going to be the Assure Clean will launch a training program for drivers as well at that point too. So we're excited about that. But there will be a lot of what was discussed today will also be discussed there as far as COVID-19, but a lot of safety and compliance things that a lot of us are doing that we may not have done before. All that'll be covered as well. So we're super excited about it. Thank you, Bob.
So yeah, all you guys, I encourage you to reach out to Bob directly because he does get commission. So, he's the one that set this up, and I was just kind of here to back him up. But go ahead and reach directly out to Bob. And then if you guys need any marketing material, I can help you with that. We actually are having a video made by Ryan Kelly. He should have it done soon. It's been a freaking month. But I'll give you guys marketing material and like Bob said, you guys can turn this into a revenue generating business. Go into your schools. I mean, churches, hospitals, nursing homes. So that's an idea for you. That's all.
Bob and Phil, if we can ask a question, I believe there's a question that came in regarding the shelf life of the product. Can you
Yeah.
discuss that?
Yeah, after it's been opened, it's got a 1-year shelf life.
Perfect. And that would be even include if it's the concentrated version versus the other. Okay, very well.
And on the SDS sheet, and I think we sent one to you, Jasmine, but I think on the SDS sheet, it has, as any SDS sheet is going to have, it's got storage, disposal, shelf life, all of those things that are making your applicators and your cleaning crew safe, so that they can create a safe environment for your passengers, and that you also can create a safe environment for your employees in your offices and everything else. And as Phil said, this is a great way for you guys to think about stepping outside the box and you have all these contacts with all your people that are out there that are writing on your coaches is, they have facilities, and you're marketing them for your coaches, but you could also cross market into helping them have a safe environment and keeping not only their people but their customers safe as well. Just another thing to think about.
Okay, we see another question that came in from Jay Brown asking, is the concentrate the RTU formula?
The RTU is the pre-mixed formula. Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
And we just had, as Phil was saying, if you have multiple coaches in your fleet, which many, if not most all of you guys do, you're looking at probably the concentrate. But on the side note is, if you're going to market this to people and as an applicator and going in and doing that, especially in small spaces or smaller spaces like offices, the RTU. Now, we had a coach operator in Pennsylvania. They have one coach. So it was more cost effective for them to buy the RTU than it would be to buy a gallon of the concentrate. A gallon of the concentrate is probably going to last them not only a year, but they're going to burn up the shelf life because they're just not going to use it that much when you have a 90-day cycle. So there's you can also end up mix and matching. And I think Phil might be able to speak more to that because he sold this and was worked with not only IMG members, but several other operators that, guys that are buying concentrate and guys that are also buying concentrate and the RTU.
You want me to expand on which companies are using it?
I was going to say how some companies are blending the mix between the concentrate and the RTU.
Yeah, I would, if you have multiple buses, the best thing to do is get the concentrate and just mix it on your own. That's the way to go. Use a deionized water. You guys can still use a disinfectant if you want. It's kind of redundant and overkill. But if you do choose to use a disinfectant, certain universities are going to require you to say, well, I'm using a list N disinfectant. So just make sure it's got a low pH level between 4 and 6.
And thank you, everybody. It's really good to see you all.
I think that clears out our questions. So.
Okay, well, I want to thank Jody and Jasmine for putting this session together and the panelists for all the information you've provided. I want to thank everybody for joining us during our educational series and hope you found it helpful. Make sure you join us tonight for the CBA edition hosted by Jeff. Michael, you want to explain how they get into that one?
Sure. You kind of cut out just a little bit there. So if you didn't hear, it's but CBA edition of Buses and Beer. It's going to be at 5 p.m. tonight, that specific time. If you'd like to join us, when you signed on to this meeting today, you should have seen a link in your browser for the meeting registration. So you just fill it out, register, and then you'll get the meeting info. Also sent out emails this week, so you can look at that. And just in case you didn't get those, we'll send it out one more time today. So just fill out one of those registrations and you can join us at 5.
Okay, well, we hope to meet in person next year at our convention at the Westin Lake, Las Vegas, October 24th through the 26th. So hopefully we'll all be able to get back together as a family. And let's pray that the wheels start to turn again soon. Thank you again.
Thanks to everybody for presenting.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.